39 degrees now, some patchy fog this morning, then mostly cloudy today with a steady temperature staying right around 40 degrees. Tonight, cloudy. There is a chance for some snow after 10 p.m., mixing with rain overnight. Again, a steady temperature. And then tomorrow, any rain and snow, lingering rain and snow should be over before 7 o'clock. And then it's going to be cloudy with a gradual clearing, a high of 43.
WNYC is supported by the Oratorio Society of New York, presenting a reimagined virtual performance of Handel's Messiah, Kent Tridal Conductor. Stream starting tonight at 8. Visit osny.org.
Since 1980, Paul Winter has gathered friends and musicians in the world's largest Gothic cathedral, the Cathedral of St. John the Divine, right here in New York City, to welcome the coming of the longer days in the new year. I'm John Schaefer. Join me for a special 40th anniversary edition of Paul Winter's Winter Solstice Concert, tonight at 10 on 93.9 FM, WNYC.
Some details on how the money will flow from the $900 billion COVID relief deal.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by McDermott, Will & Emery, an international firm where lawyers work every day to help clients fuel missions, knock down barriers, and shape markets. More at MWE.com. And by Avalara, simplifying sales tax compliance with cloud-based solutions. Avalara automatically integrates with more than 700 of the most widely used ERP and e-commerce solutions. Avalara, tax compliance done right.
I'm David Brancaccio. Under the stimulus plan agreed by Republicans and Democrats last night, the headline is $600 checks to individuals making $75,000 a year or less, and the federal government will add $300 a week to unemployment benefits for many. Beyond that, what do we have? Marketplace's Nancy Marshall-Genzer joins us from Washington.
Well, David, the bill continues a number of programs that were due to expire at the end of this year, including federal unemployment benefits for gig workers and for people whose state benefits have expired. The legislation is also expected to extend an eviction moratorium and include money for rental assistance. There's also money for the Paycheck Protection Loan Program for small businesses, and the bill is expected to include $15 billion for movie theaters and live performance venues.
Now, the central bank, the Fed, was at the center of a major hurdle in negotiations. You've been covering that. Do we know how that was resolved?
Yet Republican Senator Pat Toomey of Pennsylvania had been insisting there be language in the bill outlining what the Fed's emergency lending powers will look like in the future. Remember, the Fed established a number of emergency lending programs during the pandemic. Initially, Toomey wanted the bill to forbid the Fed from doing anything similar to that in the future. So now the bill just says the Fed can't recreate those exact same programs, and they expire at the end of this year.
Is the Fed saying anything now?
There's no public statement from the Fed, but former Fed Chair Ben Bernanke issued a statement saying it was, quote, vital that the Fed's ability to respond to a crisis, quote, not be circumscribed.
Nancy, thank you. By far the biggest line item in the COVID relief plan is $325 billion to businesses, money to keep people on the payroll, grants if rules are met, loans if rules are not met. Let's get an early take on this from Karen Petru, co-founder and managing partner at Federal Financial Analytics.
The greatest amount of damage and the biggest amount of potentially irreversible damage to employment is in the small business sector. So getting these PPP loans back out to small businesses, including very small and minority businesses, is critical to returning the economy to a sustained and more secure base of low and moderate income employment.
Karen, is it your hope that they refine this program from the first time around? I mean, a lot of the money went to bigger businesses and there was fraud in the system.
You rush out $649 billion literally, in a week. There are going to be disastrous mistakes, and there were in the first rollout. From what I've seen, this version of the program is a lot tighter, a lot better, and it will really go to genuine small businesses.
As for the checks directly to households, too bad, right, Karen? They didn't come yesterday. It's going to take some weeks before we actually see them.
Yeah, better late than never. Congress could not get its act together, and thus it is, but at least aid to households is coming, as well as the more structural supports to at least some of the economy.
All right, that's Karen Petru at Federal Financial Analytics. Markets, London's 100 share index is down 2.7%, with countries barring people and freight from the UK, given a coronavirus mutation in Britain. Here, the Dow future is down 434 points, 1.4%. The S&P future down 1.6%. Crude oil is down 4% in New York now.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Noom, a personalized weight loss program designed to give people knowledge to set new goals and the tools to stick to them for good. Learn more at Noom, Noom.com. And by GEP, helping transform supply chains with strategy, services, and software, including GEP Smart and GEP Next, AI-based digital procurement and supply chain platforms. And by Bill.com. Over 100,000 small and mid-sized businesses count on Bill.com to automate and help simplify financial processes. More at Bill.com.
A second COVID vaccine has FDA approval. Moderna's still has to be shipped and stored cold, but not super duper cold, as does the first vaccine from Pfizer and BioNTech, which needs 76 below zero at a minimum. That means packing in a lot of frozen carbon dioxide, dry ice. Here's Marketplace's Scott Tong.
The market for dry ice is not national. Supply and prices vary by region. And industry consultant Sam Rushing at Advanced Cryogenics is hearing about scarcity now in New England.
Business, they say they receive product and it's gone in a matter of hours instead of taking a day or two.
Dry ice comes from carbon dioxide, normally something we don't want because it warms the planet. But in this case, bring on the CO2. It's a byproduct of making ethanol, which goes into gasoline. Since we're driving less, there's less raw material for dry ice.
There is a potential for price increases. With less product available, prices tend to go up.
In the vaccine supply chain, the manufacturer Pfizer makes its own dry ice to put into the packing boxes, Rushing says. And then UPS and FedEx transport the boxes, and they say they have enough dry ice. When boxes get to the hospital, more precious dry ice comes courtesy of the government, says Claire Hannon at the Association of Immunization Managers.
Dry ice has to be replenished in order to hold that cold in the shipping box for 5 days. And then, of course, you get 5 days in the refrigerator.
But after those first 10 days, the question is whether there's enough dry ice to store and transport the vaccine to neighborhoods and remote places. And that's hard to say. Business professor Glenn Ritchie at Auburn University says the market is fragmented in a couple ways.
One is how many different producers there are, and also all of the different hospitals, all of the different pharmacies. So it's really difficult to put a finger on both what the supply will be and what the demand will be.
Dry ice makers can invest money to produce more, but that's risky.
What happens after this demand for dry ice goes down? Have you invested significantly in a lot of overhead cost and new equipment? Then the demand goes back down and there's a glut.
Too much product would sink prices and profits. Now, there have been shortages of dry ice in the past, most recently this spring. I'm Scott Tong for Marketplace.
All of which recalls the old theater expression, there wasn't a dry ice in the house. I'm David Brancaccio, Marketplace Morning Report. We're from APM, American Public Media.
WNYC